Hi, my name is Joanna Whitney. I am an intuitive artist, a student of natural law, and an energy practitioner. And we're studying the Kybalion by the Three Initiates, and we're on page 96. We are coming to the end of this book. A few more pages of uh, mental gender, and then the Hermetic axioms, and then we'll be at the end of this book. And I'm going to continue this podcast by studying the tarot through the eyes of the Kybalion. Um, so that'll be pretty interesting, I think. So I'll just announce that from now on at the beginning of every podcast. So it'll take a while to get through that for sure. Um, so here we are. We're on page 96, and I'm going to read the paragraph before the last paragraph just to set the context. These aspects of mind, the masculine and feminine principles, the I and the me, considered in connection with the well-known mental and psychic phenomena, give the master key to these dimly known regions of mental operation and manifestation. The principle of mental gender gives the truth underlying the whole field of the phenomena of mental influence, etc. So the thing is, you hear that we humans are so powerful. And how is it that we are so powerful? Well, we're powerful in that as we think, so we feel, so we act. So it is our responsibility to mind our mind, pay attention to our mind and what goes through our mind, and try to think about the words that we say, not use idle chatter. Really pay attention to make sure that we're not saying, God damn it, for example. God damn it. Think about that. You're basically asking the creator to make whatever you're doing harder than it has to be. You could say, God bless it. You might think that it's irrelevant, that our words are irrelevant, but that is a lie. If I am like the creator, and the creator created creation with a word, then I also must mind my words. So I think that's what they're talking about here. The masculine principle of spoken word and paying attention to those words that you use. Very important. Also, gossip. Gossiping is terrible. It's a terrible thing to do. I know it's fun to do. It's grown fun. We've made it fun, but it's not really fun. Cutting other people down so that you can feel good is not really fun because it only has a short feeling of um, self-justification. And then you have to do it again to get some more power. But it robs you. It's satanic because it robs you of your life force energy. It's just a fake, a false energy. So that's another way that we have to consider our words. If we're going to be raising our frequency and trying to be what we're meant to be, which is why someone would be studying a book like this, would be so that you would understand the laws of nature, so that you could use them for your betterment. But you have to cut out your bad habits. Sarcasm is another one. Sarcasm is, the word sarcasm comes from, let's see if I can remember what it is. Sarc, I can't remember the root, but it means to tear or rip, and it was referring to the whips used on Jesus. They were thorny whips that would tear his skin. That's sarcasm. So when you behave that way, it comes back at you. You're sowing what you're going to reap later. And there's a delay here in the third dimension. So, it's easy to act this way and think it has no repercussion, but it does have a repercussion. So, that's the masculine principle. Uh, the tendency of the feminine principle is always in the direction of receiving impressions, while the tendency of the masculine principle is always in the direction of giving out or expressing. The feminine principle has much more varied field of operation than has the masculine principle. The feminine principle conducts the work of generating new thoughts, concepts, ideas, including the work of the imagination. The masculine principle contents itself with the work of the will in its varied phases. So, I'm thinking actually right now about the magician and the high priestess in the tarot. The high priestess represents the intuition, whereas the magician represents the will. And so, the feminine principle has a lot more work that it does than does the masculine principle, like they just said. But considering the dark Luciferian agenda, those psychopaths hate the feminine principle. They want to bury it, as you can tell, like, from the transgender agenda, the trans agenda, the subversion to make men more valuable than women, or to make um, the male more valuable than the mother earth, to destroy the earth, to blame it on the people, to make it okay for them to destroy the earth. Um, this has been going on for millennia, the destruction of the sacred feminine, the hatred for the sacred feminine by the dark occult. I mean, if you look closely, you'd find out that all the female actresses in Hollywood are actually men, and all the male actors in Hollywood are actually female, almost all. It's pretty horrifying. And even in politics, the wives are male, the men are often female. It's pretty unbelievable. But that's the subversion, because in the facts of the matter, the feminine principle conducts the work of generating new thoughts, concepts, ideas, including the work of the imagination. I mean, that must be absolutely horrifying to the male psychopath. And yet, without the active aid of the will of the masculine principle, the feminine principle is apt to rest, content with generating mental images, which are the result of impressions received from the outside instead of producing original mental creations. Persons who can give continued attention and thought to a subject actively employ both of the mental principles, the feminine in the work of mental generation, and the masculine will in stimulating and energizing the creative portion of the mind. The majority of persons really employ the masculine principle, but little are content to live according to the thoughts and ideas instilled into the me from the I of other minds. But it is not our purpose to dwell upon this phase of the subject, which may be studied from any good textbook upon psychology, with the key that we have given you regarding mental gender. So any good textbook good luck with that these days. Most of them would be Marxist. So I think you'd probably have to look at original works by Carl Jung or William James if you wanted to find some good textbooks. The student of psychic phenomena is aware of the wonderful phenomena classified under the head of telepathy, thought transference, mental influence, suggestion, hypnotism, etc. Many have sought for an explanation of these varied phases of phenomena under the theories of the various dual mind teachers. And in a measure, they are right, for there is clearly a manifestation of two distinct phases of mental activity. But if such students will consider these dual minds in the light of the Hermetic teachings regarding vibrations and mental gender, they will see that the long sought for key is at hand. In the phenomena of telepathy, it is seen how the vibratory energy of the masculine principle is projected toward the feminine principle of another person, and the latter takes the seed thought and allows it to develop into maturity. In the same way, suggestion and hypnotism operates. The masculine principle of the person giving the suggestions directs a stream of vibratory energy or willpower toward the feminine principle of the other person, and the latter, accepting it, makes it its own and acts and thinks accordingly. So I guess that's how the dark occult, through the media, implants mind control upon us. An idea thus lodged in the mind of another person grows and develops, and in time is regarded as the rightful mental offspring of the individual, whereas it is in reality like the cuckoo egg placed in the sparrow's nest, where it destroys the rightful offspring and makes itself at home. The normal method is for the masculine and feminine principles in a person's mind to coordinate and act harmoniously in conjunction with each other. But unfortunately, the masculine principle in the average person is too lazy to act. The display of willpower is too slight, and the consequence is that such persons are ruled almost entirely by the minds and wills of other persons. In 1908, imagine how it is now, whom they allow to do their thinking and willing for them. How few original thoughts or original actions are performed by the average person? Are not the majority of persons mere shadows and echoes of others having stronger wills or minds than themselves? The trouble is that the average person dwells almost altogether in this his me consciousness and does not realize that he has such a thing as an I. He is polarized in his feminine principle of mind, and the masculine principle in which is lodged the will is allowed to remain inactive and not employed. This is very true today. The strong men and women of the world invariably manifest the masculine principle of will, and their strength depends materially upon this fact. Instead of living upon the impressions made upon their minds by others, they dominate their own minds by their will, and it's capitalized will. So I would say, well, I'm going to finish the sentence. Obtaining the kind of mental images desired and moreover dominate the minds of others otherwise in the same manner. If you pray, you will enact your combined will with your higher self and God's will for you, and then you can defend yourself against the onslaught of mind control. But you have to ask yourself questions about things you think you believe in, like, say, climate change. I heard today, which I think is just baloney, but I heard today that the World Economic Forum is saying that they want governments to outlaw home gardening because it's going to affect climate change. If you believe any of this crap about climate change, you are under mind control. Any quote unquote climate change that is occurring on this planet is occurring because they are making it happen through the military, like warming up the ocean floor with their sonic weapons testing, etc., for whatever nefarious purpose, and then they're blaming it on us. Cow farts. People who believe in this kind of stupid crap are the people that they're talking about here in this book right now. Um, so if I were you, I would want to not be influenced by any um, outside agency. I would have to check and see everything I believe in and see if I can find the source of it. And using my intuition and logic, grammar, and rhetoric, I would have to make sure that everything that I believe in is true for me and not just something that was implanted by television, television, or other, even from the alternative media, because there's plenty of three-letter trolls in alternative media creating controlled opposition. Look at the strong people, how they manage to implant their seed thoughts in the minds of the masses of the people, thus causing the latter to think thoughts in accordance with the desires and wills of the strong individuals. This is why the masses of people are such sheep-like creatures, never originating an idea of their own, nor using their own powers of mental activity. And this was true in 1908. So imagine how bad it's gotten now. The manifestation of mental gender may be noticed all around us in everyday life. The magnetic persons are those who are able to use the masculine principle in the way of impressing their ideas upon others. The actor may be, or the actor who makes people weep or cry as he wills is employing this principle, and so is the successful orator, statesman, preacher, writer, or other people who are before the public attention. The peculiar influence exerted by some people over others is due to the manifestation of mental gender along the vibrational lines above indicated. In this principle lies the secret of personal magnetism, personal influence, fascination, etc., as well as the phenomena generally grouped under the name of hypnotism. So I'm going to just pause there for a moment and talk about people who have a charismatic personality who get people to follow them. But if you really listen to what they say, you realize they're not saying anything. But I notice also, I think people who lie to themselves fall for lies. And it's great. Take a look at this election. It's always true during an election year that you can see people who lie to themselves because they believe what the politicians say that they're going to do, which politicians never do what they say they're going to do to get elected. And I watch this over and over, and I am blown away by how people constantly forget that the campaign promises are never kept. It's amazing. But if perhaps you're lying to yourself in one way or another. Perhaps you're not telling yourself the truth. And in which case you might want to take a look at your actions, on a daily basis. Scrutinize your actions, scrutinize your words. Make sure you're doing what you say and not making promises and breaking them, not being sarcastic, not being a gossip. And then you'll start to be more discerning about liars, people who say things that they never, and watching their actions instead of listening to their words. And then you won't be hypnotized by like what they're talking about here. The student who has familiarized himself with the phenomena generally spoken of as psychic will have discovered the important part played in the said phenomena by the by that force which science has called suggestion, by which term is meant the process of or method whereby an idea is transferred to or impressed upon the mind of another, causing the second mind to act in accordance therewith. A correct understanding of suggestion is necessary in order to intelligently comprehend the varied psychical phenomena which suggestion underlies. But still more is a knowledge of vibration and mental gender necessary for the student of suggestion. For the whole principle of suggestion depends upon the principle of mental gender and vibration. I'm just going to see if I'm going to finish reading this right now or not. I think I'm going to stop there and let people consider this and pick up where we left off next time, which will be the end of this chapter and the beginning of the last chapter of this book. But I will probably go back and review next time. But in the meantime, I would recommend just trying to observe all of the suggestion and hypnotism, masculine principle of vibration, and the feminine principle at work in our media. Until next time.